Yeah, it brings up a good point too, like in terms of uh, the importance of omnichannel, right? If you, assuming you have the capability to do it, like, so even if you can't, like, even if you're not going to direct message somebody on their social media profile, like you, you absolutely should be retargeting those same subscribers, right? Like that, utilize like if you do data enrichment in your CDP, or if you have a customer engagement platform that has some CDP like functionality, you better be activating those lists in platforms where those people hang out.
Yep.
Facebook, Insta, Snap, whatever it is. But so the power of omni-channel is a real thing, and you should be reaching out to people where they live. Absolutely. Um, but just what you do not want to have happen in holiday, like just to close the loop on hygiene, like you do not want bad email addresses or people that don't want to hear from you in your list going into holiday. The last thing you want is a deliverability problem, like going into the roughly like a 2 week period of time where for some e-commerce players you could be making like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 to 40% of your annual revenue. Like for some people, like depending on the kind of business you have, you do not want your messages ending up in people's spam filters versus in their inbox, right? You want inbox delivery. Get ready to deep dive into the world of digital transformation, where we explore the latest trends, innovations, and challenges shaking up industries. Join us as we decode the secrets behind successful digital strategies and hear from experts who are at the forefront of disrupting the status quo. In each episode, we'll unravel the mysteries of the digital realm and uncover the hidden opportunities that lie within. From artificial intelligence to blockchain, from automation to cybersecurity, we'll leave no digital stone unturned. But hold on tight, because this podcast isn't your average tech talk. We're injecting a hefty dose of wit and humor into every episode, making learning about digital transformation an absolute blast. So if you're ready to embrace the digital revolution with a smile on your face, tune in to the Digital Disruption Podcast and get ready to be entertained, informed, and inspired. Don't miss out on the fun. Subscribe now and join us on this wild digital journey.
Hello and good morning, Patrick and Sean.
Hey, Doug.
Morning.
Good evening.
Good morning,
Yeah, good
America,
evening to
since
you.
guys in the US. Yeah.
How's it going? How's it going by you?
It's going good in the Gen Z land, We're enjoying the best days of our lives, and
Good to
enjoying
hear.
enjoying the best hiring reputation as the most generation that everybody would love to hire. Would love to hire us, Oh, Gen Z. According to studies, it looks like we are the worst generation to hire, which, rigged. I'd say it's rigged stat, it's definitely rigged. But also the stats said that we're gonna be the most spending generation this holidays, which is like I'll attest to that. That's my plan for the holidays. I'm gonna be saving up money just to spend, ben. So what's up with
Do we
that?
dare
Can you
touch
tell me
on
more?
do we dare touch on the psychological pieces there, or the like socioeconomic? Like why? Yeah, we don't like work, and but we'll just buy more things to make that pain go away. I think probably some truth there.
Well, I was.
By
I
the way,
mean, we
not
like
Gen
to.
Z, not Gen Z. Just
I am.
slightly
I
into
am.
that next one. But I also exhibit some of those behaviors sometimes. So retail therapy is very real for people. Like,
Sean, I was going to keep it much lighter than that. We usually mostly reserve our jabs for CEOs, but I think let's open it up. Let's open up the floor for sure.
I'm an equal opportunity offender. So
There you go.
in
There
this
you go.
case, yeah, retail therapy and spend what you don't have, because the world could possibly end at any moment with World War III
Yeah.
on the brinks. This this is just what I see on Instagram. I don't have TikTok,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I get it 2 weeks later. Whatever came
Yeah.
through, I'm sure they're already ahead of this. But
Well, if you ever
That's what
really
I
want to
hear.
geek, if you want to geek out on it from a academic standpoint, there's this great book that was written by Herbert Marcuse called Eros and Civilization, and he kind of, if you read that book, it starts to help build a little immunity to the manipulations of marketing and advertising, and he kind of delves into how artificial needs become, so psychologically speaking, we perceive them as like biological needs. Really interesting. Anyway, yes, retail therapy is a real thing. So of course, in our true to cynical lifestyle, we're going to talk about holiday 2024 growth hacks for e-commerce and brick and mortar retail. So we're going to be talking about this at an upcoming conference in October, but I wanted to kind of preview some of the ideas we'll be exploring and brainstorming and talking about. And I really wanted to focus around, customer engagement, channels, specifically how can you set yourself up for success with your existing customer base and your prospective customers who show the most intent, which would be right your recent subscribers to your engagement channels, but they may not have become a customer yet, right? Those people probably have about as much purchase intent as you're going to find, absent a few other signals, right? But so I want to just talk about what are some things you can do to get ready for the holiday season to maximize these channels and have a conversation with you guys around that, and kind of think through. I have a few topics in mind, but as always, like I don't want to just sit here monologuing. But I wanted to bring up a couple things. List hygiene. It sounds very clinical, but Sean, what do you think about list hygiene for customer
I
engagement
assume,
channels?
yeah, I assume we're talking about coming out of your customer data platform or like your CRM. Like, have you been maintaining it well? Which in theory you should be, right? Because you're violating some pretty big standards now if you're not, and respecting opt-ins, opt-outs. List hygiene, in my mind, like is pretty crucial. And I actually like it for me, and I'll hand this over to you. It goes beyond that, and it's like, are we going to classify within that not just the hygiene, but like usage and treatment within that list? Because I've seen some pretty bad offenders this year of
Yeah.
frequency, like
Yep.
abuse, and I can
Yeah,
tell
I
you,
would put
like,
that in a slightly different category, but I think it all goes hand in hand, right? Do you respect your users enough to, yeah, so
or
they
do
go
you
hand in
segment your
hand.
list well enough
Yeah,
to know who those, like, who's opening those every day, or if you're a twice a day
yeah,
type group? Like, I've seen it, I hate it personally. Like, once a week is, I think, the sweet spot for me as a consumer. I'm again speaking to my
yeah,
preference, but are you even asking? Like, I've seen this where, when I go to opt out or update my preferences, some will ask like, hey, is this too much? Is it too little? Do you want
yeah,
more? I appreciate that, but I think that falls into hygiene of like actually tuning into what your customer wants. And like, it depends on what you're doing, right? Are you a D2C where it's, hey, we've got a new line dropping. And right now, this kind of goes back to, what we said earlier. If you're a brand that's marketing to a pretty highly digital savvy and like engaged group, is the expectation like they're going to be checking their email every 10 minutes? And so if I can send them like, hey, we launched a new product set, we have a new color run, we have all these new things coming out, is
right.
that going to actually work? I'm sure there's a frequency bias there that, yeah,
Yes.
they get enough lift from each of those emails where it works. But I think there's also, that's one small percentage of the population. There's another percentage of the population that exists that's, give me like a really good offer once every couple of weeks, and I'm probably going to engage with it.
All right,
And in
let's
fact, you're
pause there
turning
for a
me off.
second. Yeah, that's a bunch that we've got so many
I
good
threw out way
good
too
things
much,
out
like I
there.
said.
All right. So we're gonna pause there for a second. Let's go. So and let's table the frequency thing because that's a real thing. Segmentation is a real thing, and list hygiene are real things. So let's walk them back and then unpack all those because I have notes that I wanted to touch on all three of those. So let's unpack them. So one, like, are you like, just let's start with like the most basic list hygiene, right? Like, are you sending to valid email addresses and phone numbers? Why does that matter? Well, if for whatever reason you let your list get stale at all, like for example, if you worked with a third party vendor and let's say they wet the bed and like stopped sending your email and SMS communications for several months, that's never happened to anybody I know, but anyway, if you suspect your list is like stale or out of date, or even if you don't, I strongly suggest before, like well before, like as in by the end of this week or early next week, scrub your list, go through your complete list of subscribers and make sure that you only have valid contact information that you are actually trying to communicate with. One, it can actually impact your deliverability, sending to either one, people who are extremely out of date and you don't know anything about. It can affect your, sending to bad email addresses from your main business domain, right? All those things can impact your kind of the health of your domain.
Would you say the risk there is more like on the list hygiene front with people that use their business email for certain campaigns or certain with certain like retailers? Because I can see that being more of a risk than like someone who, I feel like people latch on to their personal email. Like I know people, at least going back to generational discussion, like it's a badge of honor in some ways that I've had the same email since I was,
Yeah. Oh no, there's
18.
a lot of people who do. Yeah, I mean, I've had the same Gmail address since there was Gmail, and but a lot of, not everybody, oddly enough, not everybody is that way, right? So I think you have to. It's always dangerous to universalize from, like, because I'm in the same bucket as you are, and lots of people are. But it's amazing how much contact information does go out of date, or like somebody's like phone number for SMS, right, purposes, like it's no longer in service, whatever. Just trying to just maintain a clean list is really important. And then also like cleaning out, like using practices to like sunset subscribers, right? Like if people truly are unengaged with your channels, like send them a final notice, right? It's like set an appropriate criteria. If they don't engage within some certain time period, say, you know what, like we don't want to, we're not going to send you communications anymore unless you tell us you want to. We understand, like let us know, and come to your preference center and tell us, like, do you want to hear from us monthly? We, like you said earlier, right?
Yeah.
So asking somebody, and then say, if we don't hear from you, we're gonna stop emailing you, and no harm, no harm, no foul. But let us know.
No,
when you want to hear from us. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's best for all parties involved, right? Like if and be overt about it, right? Like I actually appreciate, like, hey, we haven't heard. I think you'll get everybody's gotten this one, right? Like we haven't heard from you in a bit. And it's really, we haven't heard from you. It's like, we don't think you're opening anything because we look at the open rates and we know you're not opening email. Do you want to keep, getting these offers, or is there a different group of offers that we have? And again, this depending on what your business does, right? If you're a multi-brand retailer, it might be looking at like, well, what brands do people really respond to, and offering the availability to like go by like product group or the brands that you carry. I think of like a Nordstrom or a like a big department store. There's probably only X amount of brands that people have like a high affinity for. Really cue into that. And again, that goes back into list hygiene, like beyond just the contact methods. What are you doing to curate behavior and actually like develop that customer profile? Because I think that one's really underserved.
I mean, the preferencing piece, there's a lot of retailers, like both, e-commerce only pure play and e-commerce and brick and mortar. I mean, to the extent that you can do progressive profiling and have a robust preference center to let people tell you how they want to hear from you, about what kinds of products, what kind of events, et cetera, and then also respect their channel preferences, those kinds of things. It has a huge impact on the performance of your engagement channels, no doubt about it. And then there's the generational piece. Daoud, what's your preferred way to hear from e-commerce platforms, or e-commerce brands?
I mean, do like emails a lot. I do
Uh-huh.
not like SMS.
You do not like SMS. Okay. Do you like push
No,
notifications?
no, I hate notifications.
You
I
hate.
always have
Okay.
them like turned off. I feel like because we have lots of stores that we have their apps on our phones. If every one of them sent you a couple or three notifications per day,
Yeah.
you have like a dozen, and then not e-commerce only who send you less, like send you notifications, but actually every app that you have, it will actually send you notifications.
Do you like
Um,
WhatsApp? WhatsApp?
I was
WhatsApp
going to
notice?
say,
What?
let's talk
WhatsApp,
geographic behavior preferences too, because
Yeah.
yeah.
Do
like
you like
WhatsApp
WhatsApp
in the Middle
messages?
East, far
Mhm.
more prominent. From what I'm told,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, it
is that
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
It
like the
I do
is.
like
No, it
U.S.
is.
WhatsApp.
It
Yeah.
absolutely is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So, so that's to say, you might say like certain groups of people are like more inclined to use one message platform or another, but you also have to say your technology should be smart enough. Well, one, your preference center option should be designed to allow somebody to tell you how you will communicate with them. But two, if somebody is subscribed to all three or four, whatever contact methods you have, your technology should also be smart enough to optimize to what they actually respond to.
yeah. A great example of that comes to mind is like, are you matching handles, right? Like social handles back to that
Mm-hmm.
customer profile.
Mm-hmm.
Because we just talked about WhatsApp, which kind of bridges to me, I would consider that like a hybrid of like an SMS experience plus IM experience. But then you look at like Instagram has the ability for you to list an entire catalog there now, essentially.
Yeah.
And you can message in groups, you can send direct offers. I don't know what the affinity is for that amongst different generation, cohorts, but like if you have that handle, that person's like high engagement. They share our content. Like we should have that handle attached because
Yeah.
we know they're spending more time there. They're spending 4 hours a day on
Well,
Instagram.
yeah.
Why would I try to email to them? I should be giving
Yeah.
them
Well,
an Instagram message, an offer
yeah. I mean,
directly there.
it brings up a good point too, like in terms of uh, the importance of omnichannel, right? If you, assuming you have the capability to do it, like, so even if you can't, like, even if you're not going to direct message somebody on their social media profile, like you, you absolutely should be retargeting those same subscribers, right? Like that, utilize like if you do data enrichment in your CDP, or if you have a customer engagement platform that has some CDP like functionality, you better be activating those lists in platforms where those people hang out.
Yep.
Facebook, Insta, Snap, whatever it is. But so the power of omni-channel is a real thing, and you should be reaching out to people where they live. Absolutely. But just what you do not want to have happen in holiday, like just to close the loop on hygiene, like you do not want bad email addresses or people that don't want to hear from you in your list going into holiday. The last thing you want is a deliverability problem, like going into the roughly like a 2 week period of time where for some e-commerce players you could be making like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 to 40% of your annual revenue. Like for some people, like depending on the kind of business you have, you do not want your messages ending up in people's spam filters versus in their inbox, right? You want inbox delivery, right? That's like crucial. So that's like, let's just put a pin in that, right? Spam days, can spam. Remember the can spam days? And if you don't,
Yes.
everybody thought, oh my God, we have to get like, explicit opt-in to send emails to people, and this is going to kill email marketing. And what everybody realized after a couple of months was like, it was way better to have 20,000 or 100,000 engaged subscribers than it was to have 1 million people, 900,000 of which you were just blasting stuff to, right? So it really did help clean up the act. Although I read an interesting statistic. Last year, in the last 12 months, something like 42% of emails sent were spam.
42%.
So something like that. And that means, I guess as a whole, humans are pathetic and we haven't cleaned up our act that much. But
Well, so I was going to ask, like, let's role play here a little bit. I'm an email marketing manager. I have certain KPIs that I'm being challenged to meet, right?
yeah,
How do I have that conversation with some of my senior leadership to say, like,
yeah,
okay, we have a list of a million, let's just say, but our open
yeah.
rate's less than 10%, engagements even lower, and honestly, like attribution through sales. Like, where do you have that conversation? Do you say, like, can we cull the list and maybe
Mhm.
cut some of the cruft out here? Or do we keep that list? Like, how do you have that conversation? If you have a philosophy that is probably more in line with, like, I think I can get better engagement. Like, we have, 20% of our list that's engaging 50% of the time at least.
Yeah.
So
Do you
that
know
takes
the
you down to
first thing?
500,000. Like,
That's
how do you
brought
have
up
that conversation?
You brought up segmentation. So don't delete anything. Just don't even ask for permission. I mean, just create a segment, engaged users. Start with engaged users and make up a criteria that makes sense, right? Did these people open an email in the last 60 to 90 days, right? Did these people do some action, right? That, I mean, open rates is really deceptive. So you might do like, did they click, whatever you want to use for your criteria, but just do something that gets you from 1 million down to 350,000 or whatever that number ends up being, right? And then without telling anybody, just email the engaged user list and see that it has almost zero. It has zero impact on your revenue from the email or from the SMS campaign, whatever channel you're sending to, and it will absolutely impact things like unsubscribe rates and spam complaint rates. So that's what I would do, and then nobody will even notice because your traffic from email or SMS in analytics isn't going to change, and so that's what I would do, and then I would just start making those improvements, and then that's how I would handle that. And then if somebody asks you, well, why did it looks like you sent a whole lot,
Yeah, we sent less, but actually though, look, we're still on the same engagement level. Look, revenue hasn't dropped, right? Hopefully, if you're tracking everything through correctly, and we know there's going to be gaps and some differentiation there, but like if it doesn't, you don't see a major drop, you have a pretty good justification for that strategy. And then this plays into my favorite thing. I said this on the last podcast, but like that mentality of, okay, now we know that there's 350 that are really engaged. There's another 650,000 that aren't engaging. Why? What do we have to do to bring them back into the fold? And then that's half the fun of, like, personally as a marketer, right? Like that's half the fun of trying to figure it out. It's like, is it our messaging? Is it our subject lines? Is it the offers themselves? Have we not done a good job of finding like product affinity or service affinity that this customer might want? And that's where like the growth and acquisition channel stuff, that's where you can start to have impact and start working with some of like, cross department or cross discipline and start looking at, well, what are you guys doing for growth? Like your growth experts sometimes aren't really involved in email. That's one thing I've noticed. Like, I don't know if we were going to touch on that, but like cross department learning, cross discipline learning in holiday season, huge.
Yep. I mean, a lot of stores are doing this. I mean, I think cross department stuff is really important, cross team. Just an example, then this isn't even like an expertise thing so much as like, this could be a really simple process thing. Like if you have e-commerce platform and brick and mortar stores, obviously the big boxes are already doing this, but even if you're a small or medium-sized business, like if your store clerks aren't trying to get people to give you an email address and or phone number at point of sale, well, start doing that, because now you're rolling those people. Now you can reach those people for both in-store sales and e-commerce sales, right? If assuming they opt in, I think you're going to have whatever the segment is, maybe you have 50% of your people who are email only, 50% who are SMS only, recruit people into different, right? And then you might have some people who are just like app push only.
I was going to say the push only folks.
Which is clearly not Daoud, but you don't like those app pushes. So, but I mean,
that's an uncomfortable thing though, too. Like to be very real, right? Like as a consumer, I don't always want to give my email. We had
Yeah.
an experience not too long ago. My wife and I, we had to go pick something up. The person was insistent, like, well, we can tie this to your account. She's like, look, this thing's like, it was a product that was about to be discontinued. We knew that. And so she's like, you're not going to send me anything that's related to this brand because this brand's done. I'm buying literally the last two. It was a makeup experience with a big multinational retailer. She's like, look, I don't want this on my profile. I know it's not going to be there. And I already get your emails. Like I'm already in, like just, so there's some weird things where, yeah, like you want to be able to match that customer data. I think there's thoughtful ways to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Don't alienate or piss people off just in order to get an email address. Yeah, if somebody says no thank you, then just move on, right? It's like, yeah, yeah.
The other one that I found, and this kind of goes beyond the email piece and the list specific. I know there's groups that have been testing some technology out there of like basically push notification or NFC technology with device on like in caps and like in-store experiences. I think those are some pretty interesting technologies. I thought they would be more widely adopted, honestly. Like this was years ago where this had started coming out and people were testing it. I thought it would have hit probably in a broader sense at this point, but maybe they are and we're just not seeing it and they're really subtle about it. But that's one that, again, if there's, I always say pilot, maybe don't pilot during a holiday season, but like for next year, something to consider of like, is there a technology out there, a technology partner or something available that could offer that?
No,
like different ways to engage, right?
Yeah, and for me, like a lot of that, like as a consumer, some stuff just like immediately like crosses the line into just like creepy factor for me, where it's like if I'm in a store and some like digital displays, like you know, like do you need some
Patrick?
medication for your cold sore or something? I'd be like, no thanks, right? Like that's weird. Like,
hey Patrick, are you going to wash your car? Do you want some turtle wax? Like, there's definitely like certain product groups that it like it doesn't feel as weird, but maybe on the RX front.
There's good reasons why there's advertising policies against medical and pharma remarketing. Yeah, but correct. No, I mean it's interesting, and for some people it'd be like, oh yeah, like I was thinking about that like yesterday. Good reminder to pick up, the turtle wax for my car wash or my boat. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, it would be effective for a big segment of the population. Absolutely. I think the question there is, do you do it? Like, does it become like sort of geo-fenced? Like are you targeting sort of like audience and then in some kind of a geo-fenced capacity, or are you really going one-to-one with it? Could also have some implications, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If it's highly personalized one-to-one, I think you're definitely going to freak people out. If it is more, hey, we know that this person spent 5 seconds near this in cap, or what I keep saying in cap, because that's typically how they do in-store marketing, right? Some sort of featured product set. If it was something where it's like, well, they were there for 10 seconds, so obviously something caught their eye. Yeah. And then, you as the brand, maybe not the brand, but like the retail partner, the wholesaler, if you're sending that message, probably a little less creepy. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
This gets me into going back into the list stuff of like other things you can do and capabilities that should exist for some reason. Like, I'll mention Amazon, right? Amazon's great for building lists. You can have your whole Christmas list, holiday shopping list done in Amazon throughout the year. And like, I do this sometimes, like my wife says she wants something, I'll add it in there. And then like, it'll go back and then Amazon does a really good job of pushing like when prices change and like, it's a basic practice. We all say and I've heard this 100 times over, but we want to be like Amazon. Like a lot of e-com and retailers say they want to be like Amazon. That's an easy thing to do. Give a functionality for a cart that's attached to the consumer. And when things are either going to get low on stock, that's a great list usage, right? Like product preference, low on stock, send it.
Yeah.
Clean it
so
up.
There's that actually is a great segue. Do you know you are in a group of 7% of consumers who shop for holidays year round, and So that's actually a lot of consumers. 7% of all consumers, they shop for holidays year round, or US consumers, sorry. So that means, right, like for one thing, yeah, you can be plugging gift ideas outside of like a 6 to 8 week period of time. One, right? And especially if you identify people from years past who've like flagged things as gifts in their checkout. Also, about 27% of US consumers start holiday shopping in October. Another 26% don't start until November. But so really, like, right, if you can now, like, so here's the other thing, right? We talked about people who've signed up for your lists but have not purchased from you yet. So now that means if you're smart, we're here in mid-August. So if you currently focus a little less on new customer acquisition and you focused on like building subscribers, for example, like as at least as a metric, right? You can be actually filling the pipeline for your holiday engagement channels, even with new customer acquisition, right? So some people right now are going to put off purchases because maybe they're planning on that for a gift or whatever, right? So to be thinking about that as well, right? Like I would be really making sure. So let's say you're using a customer engagement platform like a MoEngage, Klaviyo, whatever, Attentive. Like make sure your sign-up units are optimized. Be testing some sign-up units, like trying to incentivize people to get into your subscriber lists now, whether they purchase from you now or not. But find a way to get them.
I was just going to ask about this. Like a lot of brands that I've come across lately are doing like a first-time purchase offer, right? And it's anywhere I've seen anywhere from like 10% up to maybe 25% on first purchase. Is that a good enough incentive? Like at holiday season, is it philosophically, I guess, better to take the hit and say like 25 off first purchase, but in this window of like you said, 6 weeks out from October, where we know with the cumulative October, November, that's what 70% of purchases or holiday purchasing starts to happen, or at least there's an intent for that.
I think on average, it's like in the 30 to 40% of revenue range, something like that. But
it's
a lot, but it's a lot. Yeah.
So do you do that do you say like, hey, let's try to get a first purchase now in they'll time up, and are we betting that maybe they'll purchase something again, which I absolutely have done. I know people do this later on without that discount, but at least now, like you've given the incentive. Like, what's your take? Is that, are you taking a hit too soon? Is that is that best practice these days?
It's kind of ubiquitous at this point, right? Like most brands, to get you to sign up, will give you a first purchase discount of some kind, right? It's getting to the point where it's near ubiquitous. There's a few high-end luxury brands that don't, like, they're just like, we're a full price brand. You either want what we have,
don't even try it.
Or there's some brands where it's like, no, we have two semi-annual sales. That's the only time you're ever going to see us break price, and the rest of the year, like, don't even ask. But most retailers at this point are offering somewhere between about 10 and I've seen as high as about 20% off for first time purchase if you subscribe. I'll ask you guys, does that sway your purchase behavior?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes and no, depending on how high of an intent I have on purchasing that product. I personally like joining the groups. Like if I can get into an influencer program or something like that, like I'll definitely look at that more, just because I really appreciate brand loyalty, and I don't know if anybody else has this. Again, I may be speaking from personal experience. Some retailers are great about keeping their size and like fit dimensions, and so you're like, I'm going to buy that shirt every time it comes out for the next 3 months, or I shouldn't say 3 months, like 3 cycles, because I know the fit's going to be good. And then one of my favorite ones that somehow decides to change their fits all the time. And now I'm like, well, now I know I have to stock up the one time. If I get them all that fit in the one run, they're not going to fit in the next one. So weird, I don't know if they do that intentionally, but I will say,
interesting,
I can be enticed by a first time purchase, but then I'm like, am I going to come back and buy more from you guys?
Right. Well, let me ask you this question. If you were going to buy anyway, would it sway you from Would a 10% offer sway you from checking out as a guest versus giving your email address and phone number?
If I was going to buy anyway, I'm all in. I don't.
Okay, right.
You guys, same thing. It's like, why
I
not?
think it depends on the
Give it.
intent.
Yeah, I'll take the discount for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And if there is no discount, I absolutely will check out as a guest, like almost like 100% certainty, unless it's a brand I really know already that I want to hear from. So yeah, absolutely. It makes a huge difference for me. But for me, it wouldn't really sway me to purchase or not to purchase, but it will absolutely sway me to give them my, just opt in to receive messages from you. Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that kind of brings it full circle. Then you go back into the list hygiene and like, hopefully you're tagging first time purchase 20% off offers and making sure that, and then testing that list. At least that's what I would do. I would test against, are they an offer driven consumer or are they going to be a brand loyalist?
Yeah. Yeah. And so think about this, right? Here's the other thing you want to be thinking about the holiday kind of growth hacking, right? Like you're going to be having a huge percentage of revenue and potentially first-time customers during this brief time period of the year. So give them a great experience on your website, give them a great purchase experience, but also be prepared to give them a really, really good post-purchase experience. So don't send like tacky post-purchase messages that look like, a 6-year-old wrote them and put them together. Like, actually communicate with people respectfully after they've done business with you as well. Like still have a little bit of design in your emails, still have a little bit of, copy editing in your messages, give them a reason, to give you feedback, give them a reason to post a review, send a follow, like give them a reason to join a loyalty program if you have one. And one thing that a lot of brands could take a lesson from luxury and premium brands is you don't always have to break price to get people to buy. There are other reasons. Sean, you mentioned like you really are into brand loyalty, right? For brands that you really like. So there's a lot of people that will be like brand evangelists and like if you give them some like exclusive access to limited run products, if you give them loyalty club only,
first
perks, whatever.
Sneak peek previews.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get
Honestly,
people to come back and interact.
I was going to ask, what about the return policy? Like, there's a lot of e-commerce groups that I've seen over the past couple of years where it's like, it's a 30-day return. Like they don't think in mind with the customer behavior, right? If I would open my return, like if you have a normal, maybe 60-day window, open it to 120 days. Like if someone's buying a gift for someone, I have to go talk to my aunt. I got to hey, how did the shirt fit? Oh, you didn't like it? Okay, you can return it. Oh, you don't know how to use a computer? Okay, like there's a lot of stuff that can happen where like if you make that easier and lower the friction, right? We talk about this in digital experiences all the time, lowering friction when necessary. But like that customer service experience, that's a big one where you can lower it and say, hey, here's the return policy. Like be upfront. Like when you send that confirmation, hey, we extend it during the holidays because we know people are traveling and things are tough. And we want to back our fit. And so we'll do it, we'll do the free exchange or we'll do, I don't know how many people do this now where it's like, we just only go store credit. I think that's typically reserved for like some sale items, but I've seen brands kind of bend the rule on that lately too, where it's like, it was supposed to be final sale, but like if you're going to come back and buy more, which is actually honestly one of the best blessings ever is when someone goes to return something, especially in a brick and mortar, you have a tremendous opportunity to upsell them, delight them, help them. Yeah, this didn't work. Let's find it. And that's a people thing more times than not, but enabling your people to do that.
I would say when you open those things up like that, do not bullshit people. Like if you say you're going to if you're making a more generous return policy, or if you're saying, if you're at any time unsatisfied with this product, I think the last thing you just said, Sean, is the most important. You must empower your people to it has to be like no questions asked. Not no questions asked in the sense of like, do you mind just tell, like, so we can do better, do you mind telling us what was wrong or something like that's perfectly appropriate. But do not make it hard for somebody to do what you told them they could do, right? Because that will leave an even worse, like, so like REI, like I bought a pair of shoes for my wife because I was already at REI. She said like, do they have these in this size? Like, and at the checkout counter, they're like, you have up to 12 months. Like if these don't fit your wife and she wears them and stuff, like they didn't say like, if you don't wear them outside on the sidewalk or whatever, they said if for whatever reason she doesn't like how these fit, bring them back and you can full store credit, for up to a year. And I know for a fact that REI stands by that, which is awesome, right? Like,
yeah, that's a brand promise that they've built their entire ethos around. Really, so then you start to go back to, well, what's our philosophy as a brand, right? Because then I use this a lot in examples, but partially because I came up in that system a little bit, but like Nordstrom is a great example of that, right? Everybody knows the Nordstrom case studies of like, I think everybody at least once has probably heard that like you could return tires in Alaska at one point. I don't know if they sell tires. I don't think they do that anymore.
No.
And someone tried to return a set of tires that weren't there, that they didn't buy from there. And Nordstrom said, we're going to take them because we know you're going to, like, if we treat you well, you'll keep spending.
Right.
And Nordstrom's a great example, right? Like a brand that literally does like really 2 sales every year. They do one that's like an exclusive first look. It's your fall ready, which they just wrapped, which usually is a big driver of business. And they have different incentives to get people in the door for that. You spend more throughout the year, you get to look earlier. There's some good practices that can be taken from that. And then they do one that's kind of after the holidays. So actually, that's another one that we'll see a lot of is post-holiday, going back to like what's going on after the sale. The post-holiday sale is actually a good incentive too. So maybe if you're not going to discount prior, discounting after, and most people are pretty savvy. They know like that's a move. It's a move to move stock and to move kind of what's left of inventory. But if you incentivize well there, I mean, I think people actually do like, I saw some data on this and apologies for not having it ready here. But like post holiday sales last year were almost as high. There was
they were huge. They were huge.
Yeah. Like after the 26th of December, the sales were like 2x what they've been historically. And it's like the pattern has shifted, right? When you look at from 20 years ago to now, like you said, people are buying in October for a holiday intent. And they're buying all the way up, and then they're buying like holiday related or some sort of sale post into February.
Yeah. So speaking of numbers, that's also, I mean, all those things are important, like market conditions, consumer behaviors. They have changed, they do change. So for example, like baby boomers and Gen Xers are predicted on average to actually spend less this holiday season than they did last year. Whereas, again, Gen Z, they're actually much likelier to spend more than other age generations. Do you know, and be honest here, both of you, Daoud, do you ever buy gifts for yourself when you're shopping for others?
No, I don't do that. I usually buy myself anything I like. I want.
Nice. I'm glad you don't do that. Sean, do you ever do that?
Yeah. I'm easily susceptible. Like if I see something, I'm like, I want this, or I think I'm going to want it. And I know nobody's going to think to get this for me.
Yeah.
I will do that. Or
I've done it.
I've done it with like my family where it's like, oh, we're going to get a few gifts for people, but it's like a matching gift. Like people do that, like matching pajamas, right? That's a huge one you see all the time. Like technically you're buying a set for yourself.
Yeah. So the numbers in the US, the percentage of consumers who self-gift while holiday shopping is 61%. So
wow.
Talk about other opportunities for, I mean, just in a crass sort of consumeristic way, right? There's a huge opportunity to upsell. If your product ranges are in a certain price point, like, are you likely to sell a second car to somebody who's buying their wife or husband a car for the holidays? I doubt they're going to, I think I'll buy myself that Ferrari as well, right?
If it's Lexus and it's a December to remember, they might.
Well, they might. But if you're talking about like typical holiday purchase price points, it's very likely, like, hey, if a guy, or let's say a woman is buying her husband a wallet or a business case, right? Well, maybe she'll buy herself a handbag, or like, or if a man is buying his wife something, like maybe there's a wallet that he wants or something, right? There's a number of different scenarios. And then there's also different shopper categories, just like even aside from the holiday, that you really should be keeping in mind, because some of them are pretty big chunks of consumers and they do overlap. But you kind of have like the bargain hunters. So these are like really price sensitive, value driven, discount driven shoppers. Like if you set, again, segmentation, Sean, you said this at the top of the call, segmentation is your friend. If you have consumers who only ever buy when you have a discount, those are bargain hunters, right? And you should probably treat them like accordingly. Don't give them a bad experience, but just realize that's what moves them.
That's their that's their motivation. Have something for them.
You have research, what are called research mavens. These are people who, like, before they make a purchase, they could spend days or weeks or even months, like literally looking at different products that you sell, at your competitors' products. They crave information. They want to know about product features and like reviews and in the field utilization, whatever, right? Like, so those people are really susceptible to like, if you see somebody browsing like multiple products and spending a lot of time on a product page, send them information because they love it. Research mavens love information. Luxury lovers, like, I mean, these are people who really do value the idea of prestige, the concept of it. They appreciate handcrafted. They appreciate, they would buy a meticulously made handcrafted watch over a digital, a smartwatch, right? Or if they own both, they much more emotionally resonate with the handcrafted European, like old world watch than they do with the smartwatch. And they're willing to pay for that perceived luxury value. Impulse buyers, well, that's exactly what it sounds like. People who, like, right, there's a reason why certain things are on end caps or in the checkout aisle at grocery stores and other stores, because they know people will grab them and buy them. Those are your impulse buyers.
That looks interesting. I've never had a...
Yeah, right. I like a Pearson's like nut roll, but now I see that there's like a caramel nut roll. Oh, and it's $1.39. I'm gonna buy it. Whatever. Brand loyalists.
I'm not hurting anybody but myself.
Sean, you mentioned this, brand loyalists, but there's things like, I do a lot of stuff, outdoor stuff, fishing and hunting. And there are brands I will buy and there are brands I will not buy, or that I would be very reluctant to buy without a compelling reason. Whereas there's some, like if I need a piece of like hunting clothing, I know the two brands that I'm going to go to automatically. Like, and those people are really hard to replace. Yeah. So don't screw up with your brand loyalists. Like, take care of them.
Yes.
And then there's the swayable shopper.
There's a couple of things. Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I have to interject because you've brought up, before we get too deep in this, there's two things that you brought up that I think, again, when we're talking about like hacks or things that you can do quickly. One, you mentioned if I'm willing to do the research, I'm the person who's going, and let's just say I'm shopping for pants or something like that, maybe tactical gear. Do you like audience, remarketing, like product, like there's so many triggers that you can have on your ad team. So this goes kind of outside of your list, but it's like taking that profile and using it back into some sort of like a search or acquisition channel that you have a little less control on, but like you have time to be there in the moment. Like if you have good frequency and you can show that you have a like product, like don't be afraid to try to intercept your competitor. Honestly, like I think it's a great tool and it's low cost. Like the CPMs are still really good. And even like a 1% lift out of a campaign like that could mean for some retailers like $1 million, millions.
Oh yeah, no, some of these things definitely go across tactics and channels. Absolutely, yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the other one I really liked was, again, it's like thinking the abject or thinking out of it. You mentioned watches, which is a really interesting category because a lot of jewelry, there's a lot of money spent on jewelry and like those types of goods during this time of year. Okay, you have someone who maybe prefers a Rolex or an Omega, but everybody, I know most people have a smartwatch. I'd say there's a vast majority of the population that's using some sort of a wearable device right now.
Yeah.
is that an opportunity as you know, as a brand, if you're a luxury brand, are you offering, or you sell both, are you offering luxury, you know, bands for the Apple Watch?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
marketing to that person who maybe has that high affinity and it's like, hey, this is a handmade leather band for that, so you can dress it up? Like, they market this already. I think they
Yeah, yeah.
undermarket it sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
people like the interchangeability of some of those. So little things like that
Sure.
where it's like, oh, is there a like affinity here that I can go get?
Absolutely.
That popped into my mind when you were going through those, because it's like little things that seem really straightforward, but we often overlook and maybe we get panicked about, and we're like, well, is that really going to provide lift?
Right.
It's a
No,
good time
absolutely.
to test it.
Absolutely. So no, all those things are like great examples of how to put this in application. And the last sort of shopper category I mentioned are swayable shoppers. They're dangerous, and it's a double edged sword, right? Somebody can, just like you can sway a person away from another brand to yours, they can also be swayed away from yours to someone else's. So these are people who tend not to be brand loyal. Um, they kind of share some traits with the research mavens. They can also be share. They can also overlap with bargain hunters, right? So swayable shoppers can either be, people who are swayed by information or by price or a combination, right? And so you just kind of want to try and understand, right? Like, there may be some of that that's out of your control. There may be some of it that's in your control. But the more you can sort of segment your lists, your customer profiles, to understand who your customers are, again, understanding who your most high value, customers are from an RFM standpoint, so recency, frequency, and monetization standpoint. So like how much they buy, how often, right? And those would be the kind of ways you could segment that, right? And also if you do some old fashioned like customer file analysis, like the way catalog companies used to, right? Like they understood really meticulously, like let's say if I acquire a customer today, if I can get that person to purchase a second time in the next 30 days, then that person, like over the next 5 years, is worth, 2 to 3x the general population of my customers, right? So understanding those metrics about your customers, also that will tell you like how much energy do you want to put into like getting people to raise their hand early in their customer life cycle to tell you that they're likely to be a loyalist, a high value customer, right? Like there's a whole bunch of things that can go into this. But the holiday season is just this time of like so much commercial velocity, right? So much new customer acquisition, repeat purchase behavior, returns, good experiences, bad experiences, right? And each of those like interaction points is a chance to do something more, right? So, yeah.
So zeroing in on like holiday specific, the one question I have, and I feel like people maybe not struggle with this, but like creatives, right? So at this point, we're 6 weeks, we're shooting this or filming this in mid-August. Campaigns will probably start, like you said, in 6 weeks. How deep into a creative variant should you be going? So if I'm going to run display ads, I'm going to run video. Do I need to lean into holiday heavy now? And then how should I be staggering some of those runs? Is there data that I can get early on that indicates like high affinity, like creative? We were at a conference last week, and it wasn't specific to holiday, but one group was sharing kind of a branding campaign they did. And I think they said they tested about 15 variants of this campaign. And that was like their 15, 30 and 60-second variants, but 15 combinations total with this brand message.
Yeah.
How much is too much at holiday? Like,
I would have some variations for sure. And what I will tell you is I'm not going to say what the magic number is, because I think it depends on your bandwidth. I think it depends on how much you're willing to use tools, in the sort of Gen AI realm to create variations on themes and things like that, right? Like, and still be assured that it's on brand and all of those things. But what I will say is that the data is pretty definitive in this regard and has been for quite some time. Good creative, or let's say great creative, is at least like 2x more impactful and 2x at least 2x more stickier than substandard creative. So it's more impactful immediately in terms of favorable brand recall, and it's more impactful for longer. So regardless of if it's holiday or not, you should be investing in as like superior creative as you can, because it's along with where you buy your ad inventory in relation to your target audience, like creative and media placements are the two most impactful things that will impact your media performance by far, by a lot. And you cannot optimize, in spite of what anybody will tell you about the technology, you can't optimize through crap. Like the programmatic optimization levers, they can only go so far. They will not make your bad creative good, and they will not make a lousy ad buy into a good ad buy. It will not happen. So whether you do 2 variations or 50 variations, make it as good as you possibly can. Like, do not say this is good enough. Don't, like, if you find yourself saying like your
be
video
willing to
creative,
test incrementally, split test it.
Yeah.
Like you have, especially in a lot of these ad networks, right? Like there's the eyeballs there. You're going to be able to run tests. Like, don't be afraid to do it. Yeah. Okay. So another question in extension to that, I'm going to keep grilling. No, influencer marketing and affiliate, also a big play here at this time of year. Anything that people like, affiliates are easy to activate in a lot of ways, right? Because I can get product out to them. They can talk about it like, hey, depending on how you manage your affiliates through like a Rakuten or something like that. Or more like a direct, like, hey, we're going to do 10 posts with this person and, they're going to get 20 products, whatever. Are there any like levers or things that brands should be watching for when doing that? And like, is it fair to compare that to some of the other channels? Like, what's the expectation brands should have when looking at doing a program like that at this time of year?
I mean, so I'd say most brands, like true brands, like where a company has taken the actual time to like build a brand or like celebrity collabs or various things like that, like most are going to have already some form of influencer marketing in place. So if you're not starting from zero, you're kind of your own baseline, right, in that regard. So it's like, how can you do better than what you're doing now? So can you give them, can you facilitate, right, getting sort of better content, better creative, like new product categories in front of those people so that they can geek out on what you're offering more so than they are now, right? Can you build that network? Like now would be a great time, right? You still have a month and a half, maybe 2 months where you could be actually expanding that network. And then I think
for
on
the ones that are really
polished,
right? They're going to have a production schedule, but you still have time to get in front of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly not a specialty area for me, but I do know, I just know how important it can be to certain categories and certain brands for sure. So, I mean, I would just say keep the pedal to the metal and keep like growing the quality of what you're making available to those people. Like your brand loyalists as customers, like take care of your really loyal influencers as well. Like the 80-20 rule applies here, right? Like there's going to be a handful of influencers who are driving the bulk of your revenue and engagement. Really take care of those people, make sure they experience, and then on the affiliate side, I think it depends a lot on your category as well, right? Like, and are you a full price, premium luxury brand? Like, how are you going to incentivize? You got to at least have, I mean, this time of year, even if you're a full price brand, you still have to have a shipping incentive. You got to have something, right? So, or like maybe for your best affiliates, you have some exclusive offers. Maybe it's
packaging, like fragrance does this a lot, right? Where it's like, hey, we'll do the box set, or we'll do, like I think of beauty, like, hey, we're going to do a run of like these 5 lipstick combinations or something to that effect, right? And then yeah, free shipping or free gift with purchase. Another one that's a great way to like upsell it, like, and it could be something as simple as like a bag, or it could be, a sample product. But that's another one I've seen a lot. And again, it's more of the incentive, right? It's like, okay, well, why am I purchasing? Oh, because they have this, nobody else does in that case.
Something happened. I didn't quite catch just the last sentence you had there, Sean. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying the incentives and the add-ons, that can be a mover if you are an affiliate. Like, hey, can I go get something can I get a gift with purchase that nobody else is going to have? I think that's actually a great, for brands, something to think about, right? Like if I know that affiliate's really good and there might be something where there's a competitor that's at play, what can I offer that maybe moves the needle a little bit more that's low cost?
Yeah. And I mean, make sure most people who have affiliate programs, right, you're running it through a platform. You're not sort of running it like in a hand-rolled system. So just make sure everything is make sure your tech is all, I guess, tuned up as well, right? So that you can actually distribute these offers, that you can, just that the actual nuts and bolts of what you need to get, information, links, creative, whatever that is, copy into affiliates' hands so that they can actually, promote these things. I think that's really crucial as well. It's like, don't leave that till the last minute. I think
so that they can promote and so that you have attribution.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a professional affiliates, if they know they're not getting credit for what they think they're driving you, they won't. They'll find somebody who has their act together because they want to get paid. And I would say the other thing I've seen really effective in the past is let's say you have a Gen 1 product that's going to be now getting phased out at the end of the year, and then you're going to be releasing Gen 2. Maybe do take that Gen 1 product category, right? Maybe it has 20 SKUs, right? And let your affiliates promote the hell out of that, right? At a decent, hurry before it's gone, we're not going to make more of these things, right? For a limited time, X% off or whatever, right?
Yeah,
just let them go to town, right?
Electronics retailers are really good at this. Best Buy historically has been good at this the past couple of years. Hey, there's a sale on a 72-inch Samsung TV, OLED, whatever, but we know that the next gen's coming out. But so right now, go get it. There's some really thoughtful ways to do it that make sense. And then again, that kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? It's I'm clearing out inventory that I know I'm going to need to anyway. I'm leveraging a partner that I know can move that product and speak to the brand correctly and speak to the benefits. Yeah, it's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. And in some ways, if you think about the influencer piece, it's really a nice alignment in the sense of because a lot of influencers, right, they're essentially part of their compensation is there's some hybrids, right, where it's I'll use the outdoor industry as an example, right? You have outdoor industry hunting influencers that do all kinds of do-it-yourself hunting content and these things. Some of them have sponsorships with brands. They might sponsor their podcast or their YouTube channel or whatever, right? But then they also oftentimes have affiliate links and promotions for those same brands, right? So in that sense, they're getting incentivized twice. But there's that kind of really good content enhances your brand with the consumers that are most likely to really geek out and want to use your products, right? So kind of double up with those kinds of content producers, content creators, to really kind of give them the best reason possible to put your brand front and center with people who enjoy the lifestyle associated with your brand, right?
Yeah. I think podcasts make a ton of sense there. That's one I think you kind of mentioned there, or YouTube, but we already see the interstitials, or we'll see ads running, and then you have your lives as well, making sure those are buttoned up and ready to go. I think that's having a good strategy for a product focus or something there is really thoughtful as well, and knowing that yeah, if you have a few that you really like and you know they drive, make sure you're not just giving them the same copy.
Right. It's like, I mean, for example, there's a guy, Randy Newberg, and he's an awesome advocate for public land access in the US. He's an awesome advocate for like do it yourself hunting on public lands, right? So he's got a great following of people, right? And I know as a subscriber to his channel, I also am likely to get, promo off, 10 to 20% off on a lot of brands that I like. And, he's going to get a little kickback from that. And they're sponsoring him. So I'm happy, like he's
You're
happy
feeding
to
their
put,
ecosystem, but
yep,
it's you're happy
yeah,
to, and that's I think ultimately that's like the biggest one, right?
yeah,
If you can build evangelists or advocates for your brand through the holiday season,
yeah.
like what a great opportunity to have long lasting, customer loyalty.
Or do it now, right? Like again, there's no time like now, right? Because one of the things that those influencers do is they build desire, they build like aspiration, they build this like growing psychological sense, right? Like, oh, like this person I really respect and admire, like uses these products in the field. He's successful, she's successful. I think this could benefit me, right? And I really think, like when I can afford that $250 price tag, I should buy that, right? Like, or if I have that. So I think to the extent that you can sort of build desire and anticipation and demand ahead of this peak time, because if you try to do this in the middle of the holiday,
Too
it's
much
not,
noise.
yeah, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you, hopefully most brands have been thinking about this now, but yeah, you're right. Like to throw something like that or to test something to that effect in the middle of a holiday season, you're not going to see the lift you want. What's actually probably going to happen is if you're testing, like depending on if it's a new influencer relationship, new affiliate, I mean, don't stop tracking that at 60 days or whatever, right? Or once the holidays are done, like, okay, here's our December, like this is maybe a campaign reporting best practice.
Yeah.
Okay, going back into your analytics, going back into your data feeds, and then going, we want to watch this for 6 months out. Actually, I want to see, because that's one thing I saw when I worked with affiliates and influencers, the echo chamber effect. It's like usually within 14 days, yeah, you see like an immediate impact. You see some sort of peak in sales, peak in web traffic, and then it tapers off. But then you
Yeah.
can see, depending on
Yeah.
viral trends, like
Yeah.
sometimes they'll come back in and they'll start popping
Yeah.
up again. And it's like, well, why did this happen? And obviously you got to do your research and see like, oh, did it get amplified across the network? Is somebody like doing a spoof of it? Like there's things that can, cause
Yeah.
that. But like the effectiveness over time is something to think about. Don't think about it in that small window. There is like a lag that happens depending on the product group.
Yeah. No, it's all good stuff. I think we've asked our viewers. I think as the car guys used to say on NPR, we've got you to waste a perfectly good hour with us here today. I think we've gone a little over our usual time
Yes,
slot.
we have.
But Dayu, can you please confirm for our listeners that no Gen Zers were harmed in the making of this podcast?
No Gen Z was harmed in this podcast, guys. Help, send help.
He's still fully functional. We didn't we didn't program that into him at all.
No gun is being held to my head behind the blur, you know.
David, serious question. As a consumer, what I mean, understanding that like holiday time period in Cairo may be slightly different, but we live in a global economy, so I know you probably see a lot of the same like holiday advertising that everybody everybody kind of does at this point. What would you like to see this holiday season in terms of like communication styles from brands, offers? Just like I guess as a consumer, how do you want to be treated going into the holidays?
I mean, I definitely want more recommendations into stuff I might be interested in. And I also wanna be able to like sift through the offers at my own base. Like, cool, you have offers. Let me see them all in like one place, or like let me easily search for the offers that I might be interested in. Because, I might not be in a shopping mood, and then I see something that I might need in a couple of months, and I'm like, ooh, it's a holiday. Let me buy that. So that I do a lot. I have some Telegram groups that group the offers from Amazon and like big retailers in Cairo, and then they send the offers. I'm just like, I scroll like every couple of days. I just scroll. Ooh, that looks like a great offer. I'll get some. So definitely play into how I use your platform, and definitely play into how I communicate with your platform, and not how you think I communicate with your platform. So emails, yeah, SMS, nah, WhatsApp, maybe. I mean, as long as you're not spamming me, um, definitely do some kind of an aggregation of offers so people could like scroll through the offers and see what stuff they might be interested in. But I still prefer emails. I'm a big
Interesting.
email
Yeah.
guy.
I
Yeah.
am I am too actually. In the US, I mean the numbers in the US indicate like SMS is a big channel in the US in terms of like the open response rates on SMS actually outpace email at this point in the US, but there's still a lot of consumers that are either old school or young school but prefer a channel over another. So pay
Yeah.
attention to that at your own, or don't pay attention to that at your own peril as a e-commerce retailer. I think you mentioned that Telegram too, which is really interesting, right? Like, also, you don't control how consumers shop and look for deals and
Yes.
information. So, also don't underestimate the savvy of tech connected consumers to shop however the hell they want to, regardless of how you communicate with them.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Sean?
I've word vomited all over holiday shopping best practices and readiness. I'm tapped.
Yeah. Well, you had some great. I mean, I appreciate the insights you brought up, the recommendations. I think if I would summarize anything is if you wait till a week before Black Friday to do any of these things, it's gonna fall flat in all
Yeah.
likelihood. So if any of this resonates with you, pick a couple of things and work on it. Like the list hygiene, that's pretty easy actually. It just takes a bit of time. Run some queries, figure out who's engaged, who's not. Like run your whole list through an email validator, right? Just do some cleanup and again, kind of segment down to the people who actually do want to hear from you and who respond to you. And I can assure you, if you do it right, you're not going to reduce your revenue and orders. You're just going to be sending messages to a smaller group of people.
And on that note, I think we wrap it up. Thank you, Patrick and Sean. No Gen Zs were harmed, but we'll see. If I do not appear in the next episode, you should send help. That's it. That's all I'm gonna be saying. Expect us
Thank,
in like a week or two. Hopefully, they will let me be back, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, the next episode we record, we'll just like we don't know where dude is. Like we were joking about this, but apparently somebody took it down. Probably a bad.
we're just gonna have a photo of Daoud next time. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Good
You
chatting as
too.
always. Bye bye.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.